Most people think Bitcoin is just a cryptocurrency, but once you see how Bitcoin actually works under the hood, you realize it's an entire ecosystem and almost nobody explains it properly. That's why I'm going to give you a complete beginner's map of Bitcoin. And by the end of this video, you'll never look at a Bitcoin transaction the same way again. To explore Bitcoin, we're not going to guess. We're going to look directly at the blockchain. This is mempool.space, your one-stop shop for everything Bitcoin. Blocks, transactions, wallets, fees, and even the next blocks that haven't been mined yet. But here's the thing that most people miss. The Bitcoin blockchain is made of blocks, and every block has something called a block height. This number, 932,000, is the block height. Literally tells you how long Bitcoin has been running. Each block, if we open up, contains transactions, timestamp, the miner who mined it, this block is mined by Foundry USA, and how much data is inside. You can see also the upcoming blocks that miners are right now competing to mine, which brings us to incentives. Why would anyone spend millions on electricity to mine Bitcoin? Because the block has a reward, and that reward is created in a very special transaction called the Coinbase transaction. This is the only place where new Bitcoin is created. Inside this block, if I scroll down, we can see all the transactions inside this block. We can see the Coinbase transaction where new Bitcoin was being mined. Exactly 3.1 Bitcoin was being mined. This is new Bitcoin into existence. If we open a transaction here, we can see transaction. It was confirmed after 4 seconds. We can see the fee. We can see the inputs and outputs of the transaction. Whenever you send Bitcoin, you're not sending coins, you're spending UTXOs. And UTXO stands for unspent transaction output. This is basically a chunk of Bitcoin. Every time you spend Bitcoin, the chunk gets destroyed and brand new UTXO, the output, is created. And you already know that 1 Bitcoin equals 100 million Satoshis. And a lot of people nowadays are trying to track a single Satoshi. But there's no such thing as a special Satoshi. Sats don't have memory, they don't have identity, they don't have rarity. And this is where things get weird. You might heard of ordinals. Ordinals are an external numbering system applied to Satoshis. So you just take one Satoshi and you label on that Satoshi the number 50, for example. Ordinals are an external numbering system, and the key word is external. They're not part of the Bitcoin consensus. They're not enforced by nodes. They're not real at the protocol level. They're labels people agree to pretend matter. And that leads to people trying to sell Satoshis, rare Satoshis, first set of a block. But these are not real properties. These are stories layered on top of Bitcoin. Now let's talk about data on Bitcoin, because this part matters. Bitcoin can store non-monetary data. The cleanest, honest, official way to store non-monetary data is op-return. Op-return is literally a data carrier. It's a place reserved for messages, proofs, and small pieces of data. Nodes relay it, miners included, and it doesn't pretend to be money, but there's a limit. But large data has always been allowed inside blocks, which brings us to inscriptions. Inscriptions are another method of embedding arbitrary data inside the Bitcoin blockchain. But this time, instead of in the output of the transaction, they put data into the input of the Bitcoin transaction, the signature part of the transaction. The witness data gets a 75% fee discount, meaning it's cheaper to stuff data in there. And that's how people started putting images, text, and even videos directly into Bitcoin blocks. Inscriptions use ordinal theory to associate data with a specific Satoshi. Inscriptions are where you attach a digital asset to each Satoshi, like a JPEG or text, and this is one way of bringing NFTs on Bitcoin. That's how people create NFT-like assets on Bitcoin. If you want to consult with me personally, email me at victor@hitros.io. And until next time, peace out.